From the Kelso Conservation Area in Milton, Ontario, the Canadian Tire Mountain Bike Championships. Hello everyone, I'm Jerry Dobson, and what a fascinating day of off-road cycling we have lined up for you. 3 major events. The big event of the day is the Pro-Am, featuring some of the best off-road cyclists in the world, including the current world champion Ned Overend. We have the Dual Downhill, which is an event that resembles pro slalom in skiing, and the first event of the day is the uphill sprint. Working with me today, a former world cycling champion, Gord Singleton, and let's check in with Gord now for a few words on today's race.
I'm at the base of the ski hill here at Glen Eden. It's the start of the uphill sprint. It's a mass start event. The riders have to negotiate the slippery climb to the top of the hill, with the winner being the first one over the finish line, unless he puts his foot down, at which point he's immediately disqualified.
So here we go. There will be 2 races. The women are up first, followed by the men. There are 5 women in this race, and away they go up this very steep hill, and 2 of them have broken away. That is Cindy Devine, number 27, and Lisa Muick, number 30. So it looks like they are breaking away slightly here on this very steep hill, Gord.
The key here is to start out really fast and strong, get your legs going, keep the momentum. As the race gets steeper and steeper up the climb, it's hard, but once you lose your momentum, to keep the speed going. You see the girls here, they're pushing and pulling on the pedals as hard as they can, just trying to keep it going to the top.
And that camera angle there showed you just how steep it was as the 2 of them go up here. That is Lisa Muick on the left, Cindy Devine on the right, and they are neck and neck right here on the very steep part of this hill. And oh, there, Lisa Muick, a problem for her. She slipped out of the toe strap there, and she could be in trouble. It's forced her off the course. She has lost the momentum, and it is now up to Cindy Devine. This race is hers if she wants it.
Well, there's no way at this point in the race that Lisa Muick can come back after pulling her foot out. It looks like Cindy Devine is going to take it all the way to the top. We can see her struggling, but she's staying on top of the pedals. The key is to push and push and push, not to give up the momentum. She's taking it all the way to the finish here.
Cindy Devine, a Canadian girl for the Rocky Mountain team. She's going to win this race. Lisa Muick falls right out of it. Tell me, what was that like coming up there?
Just great, just what I expected.
Was it easier today? I mean, the conditions were pretty good, I guess.
Oh, great. I was toying whether I was going to gear up for that steep bit, but I went in my lowest, and it was a good idea.
We've just seen them come up this hill en masse, and now we'll see them go down the hill 2 at a time. The next race of the day is the Dual Downhill, and Gord, I guess it's a lot like a pro slalom event in skiing.
Yes, the riders not only have to negotiate the steepness of the hill, they have to go in and out of the poles where it's very, very slippery. The rider moving on to the next round is the one who can negotiate the fastest time over the 2 runs.
So we pick it up with the women's final, and you are looking at Cindy Devine, the winner of the women's uphill sprint. Her opponent in this final is Elladee Brown, and so they're just about set, and there they go, and they have to be very careful not to miss those poles, Gord.
And we've seen how steep the hill is in the race on the uphill portion, now going down at a faster speed. Bike handling is a real key factor here. They have to stay back on the saddle. It keeps their center of gravity back on the pedals, allows them to take these turns at a higher rate of speed.
And they're very tentative in the upper portion of the hill, but they pick up the speed now. You can see Cindy is opening up a lead here as she really is coming down. She almost loses it right there, but she keeps on the bike and she wins the first run. And so now they go back up the hill and they'll do it all over again, and the woman with the lowest total time will be the winner. And of course they change sides for the second run here, so it evens out. So that is Elladee Brown closest to the camera in this one.
Well, if there ever is a difference between racing on one side or the other, they've split it up. Each one has a chance at the left and the right. It looks like they're even at this portion of the hill.
Very close in the upper portion of the hill, as they are very tentative there. It is very steep, so they have to be cautious, but you'll see as they get closer to the bottom, that is when they start to move. And Cindy Devine is starting to move once again, so this is very close, but Cindy Devine is in front, and there she is opening it up right now, and she wins it again. So Cindy Devine is the winner of the Dual Downhill. Excellent result for Cindy Devine, winner of 2 races here this afternoon. Up next, the feature event, the Pro-Am Circuit Race. The women will start 30 seconds behind. Let's take a look at some of the top competitors in the women's division.
Julie Ingersoll, anxious to return to top form after a serious injury. Susan DiBiase, a real threat in these types of races. Cindy Devine from BC, recently finished 10th in the World Championships. And Lisa Muick, 29 years old, from Durango, Colorado.
So it's 8 laps around for the women, and there are 10 of them as they are just about set, and off they go through this 4-kilometer course here. We have 2 races in one, really. The men have already started. The women are starting 30 seconds behind them, and there's a look at the men and how they are progressing through the first lap. That is Andy Tout in the yellow jersey with the early lead. You see the little alligator there on the handlebars for good luck, I guess. So he leads the way through this first hill up through the bush here at the Niagara Escarpment here in Milton. And so we'll give you a better look at the overall course here as they will then continue on through a second gravel hill and then into the quarry. And here they come now through the quarry. That is Andy Tout still leading the way. It's very rough, as you can see. And right behind him there, that is Rishi Greywall right on his tail. And he is trying to pass him right now. Tout and Greywall in a real battle going here early in the race. Tout doesn't want to give way, but he's forced over. And that is Greywall, Rishi Greywall, now in the lead. And so Greywall leads it right now as they go up a hill to the highest point on the course, and then they will enter the woods and come down a very steep hill through the woods. And there is Greywall coming down there now. It is very rough and very steep. He gains control of his bike, though, through this very rough section all the way down the hill. Following him, there's the rest of the pack. That's Joe Murray, Tom Rogers, Andy Tout, Tinker Juarez going through right there. And in behind him, we'll see, I think we'll see Ned Overend, the favorite in the race. There he is, and there's Bruce Spicer. And the rest of the field, as they are strung out ahead, is extremely rough. You can hear their bikes bouncing all the way down the hill. And so they continue down through the hill, and then they come out of the woods into an open grassy area, and there comes Greywall now as he leads the way here, Gord.
We see a lot of factors going into being an accomplished mountain bike racer. This is one of them. It's one of the faster sections of the course. It's fairly flat, but it's still bumpy. These riders have to relax on the bike so we can see his arms bouncing away. He's conserving energy in his upper body, but trying to keep his momentum going in this section.
And it's really a grassy plain area that brings them home back to the start-finish line. Now we are down to 10 laps remaining, 6 laps to go for the women. And here comes the men's leader, and we have a new leader right now. That is Tom Rogers, who leads Rishi Greywall right now. And there's a look at the women's leader. That is Lisa Muick right now, as she is, well, she looks pretty strong right now, but that is really tough going in that section of the course.
This is very, very steep. You can see she's keeping it going now. The men are back into the downhill section here.
And there is Rogers, and there is Greywall right behind him. That is really something, the way they bikes vibrate and shake. You can hear it in the background. There's Tinker Juarez going down. Look at his arms bouncing through there. They're used as shock absorbers, basically.
And this path is only 2 or 3 feet wide. It's very, very steep here. The rider's doing speeds of about 30 miles an hour in this downhill, over these bumps, over these tree roots. Bike handling skills are of utmost importance.
If you listen, you can hear the bikes rattling all the way through. And back to our leader now through this grassy area. There is Tom Rogers as he continues to lead here in the early portion of the race. They are now starting to lap some of the other riders in this race. There is Rishi Greywall in second place. Now a look at Lisa Muick, the women's leader, as she is going through the quarry section of the course right now. She's out on her own, basically, with 6 laps to go. Not another female competitor in sight as we go back to the men's race with 9 laps to go. That is still Tom Rogers, and he is being chased by Rishi Greywall.
Not only do these riders have to battle the steepness of this section, they have to fight the gravel. Some of the gravel here is the size of baseballs. It's hard to keep their traction.
And Tinker Juarez still in third place on his own there. And there's the women's leader once again. That is Lisa Muick as she goes down through that rough, steep section right there. And the race is starting to take its toll. There's the early leader, Andy Tout. He is now forced off his bike and pushing it up the hill. That's Louis Corbet has fallen and wiped out. So it is really getting rough here for some of these people. And another racer is down. That is Susan Wrigley, and that was a nasty-looking crash. She gets up to her feet, and she doesn't look too good right there, so she'll have to try again. Meanwhile, there's the leader, Lisa Muick. She is now down to 5 laps to go. Meanwhile, there is Rishi Greywall with 8 laps to go. He's the leader in the men's race. Rishi's brother, Alexei, of course, a gold medal winner in the 1984 Olympics, beating Steve Bauer in that memorable race. But right now, Rishi is starting to look maybe just a little bit tired. The look on his face, a little bit of a look of concern. In fact, his lead has shortened. There's Tom Rogers in the background in second spot, so he is gaining ground on Rishi Greywall. Meanwhile, there are the women's 3rd and 4th place racers. That is Cindy Devine and Susan DiBiase right now, as Rishi Greywall now comes into your picture right there.
You may have noticed that some of the riders are carrying tubes in the back pockets of their jerseys. That's because if they do happen to get a puncture, it's up to them to repair the tire, pump up the wheel, get back on their bike, and make up the time that they've lost.
The Canadian Tire Pro-Am Circuit Race continues in just a moment. Rishi Grewal has the lead.
Toyota reveals the key to space, luxury, and performance. The Toyota Camry. Quality you've come to trust, with all the comforts to unwind, while an optional V6 engine powers you home.
Never heard them play till you see them play. The Rolling Stones Steel Wheels Tour, presented by Labatt's Blue. It's the way we play.
I can still tell you the page number in that Canadian Tire catalog. You know, I lived and breathed that bike, but I just couldn't ask Dad for it.
Hey, boy. I got a couple new tires you can help me unload.
Boy, what I'd give to have seen my face that day.
The Canadian Tire Pro-Am Circuit Race, the men's race, down to 5 laps remaining, just 2 to go for the women, and there is the men's leader. That's Rishi Grewal with 5 laps to go.
Rishi Grewal.
And in second place, there is Ned Overend, the favorite in this one. He has now moved into second place, 21 seconds behind. So he has gained a lot of ground here in the last few laps.
Obviously tiring. That was Grewal going over the top of the hill. We can see Overend there with the red sleeves behind a lap rider coming on fairly smooth, looking very strong. He's gaining ground on Grewal every lap now.
So Ned Overend continuing to push and continuing to gain ground on the leader, Rishi Grewal. And there is the women's leader, that is Lisa Muick. She is just coming up to 2 laps remaining now, so she looks to be in pretty good shape here in the women's race, just 2 laps to go for her. Meanwhile, Grewal still leads the men's race, but look at the look on his face, Gord. He looks real tired right now.
Well, there's no room in mountain bike racing to recover, especially on the downhills, where in most races, riders do recuperate on the downhills. In mountain biking, you have to maintain your control, maintain your bike handling skills.
Meanwhile, Ned Overend right there with the red sleeves, just 14 seconds behind right now, so he is really applying the pressure. Lisa Muick, she is going up the gravel hill here right now as she continues to lead the women's race. She looks pretty strong right now. You can hear her puffing and panting, but she looks pretty good. And there's Rishi Grewal leading the men's race still with 4 laps to go.
He's still hanging on to that lead, even though he looks like he's struggling on the uphill sections. He's coming through here fairly smooth and fairly quick.
In fact, he's actually gained a little bit of ground here in the last lap or so on Ned Overend. There's Ned right there. He's 20 seconds behind now, so he has actually dropped back. But this man is really tired.
He's looking behind him to see where Overend is. They call him Deadly Nedley Overend because he's a killer when it comes down to the last 3 laps. He's the reigning world champion at this type of event. He's 34 years old, but very, very strong.
And Lisa Muick now, she is coming up to the point where she will be starting the last lap. So she must be feeling real good right now. As she enters the start-finish line, she will be going around the circuit now for the last time. Meanwhile, there is Grewal still in the lead going down the hill, and he's just holding on right now, it appears.
He's been struggling for the last 4 or 5 laps, but he seems to be holding on to that lead. Can he do it right the way to the end?
And here comes it. Whoa! There's a nasty crash right there. That had to hurt. That is Ken Hollenkamp. He went right over the top of the bike. And there goes Ned Overend right by him there.
It looks like he caught a rock. He caught his left arm into a tree. It knocked him right over the handlebars. He must have been doing 25 miles an hour at that point.
But these guys are tough. Ken is not going to give up. He's back on his bike. These guys are made of steel. And there's the women's leader. That is Lisa Muick taking on a little nourishment there. And in behind her, that is Susan DiBiase in second place, a minute 15 behind. So it's pretty tough to make up all that time with 1 lap to go. Meanwhile, Rishi Grewal still leads with 3 to go. Can he hold on to this with 3 laps remaining? Ned Overend, 20 seconds behind as he is pushing, ever pushing to see if he can catch Rishi Grewal.
He's got 3 laps left.
And there is the women's leader, that is Lisa Muick, going down this steep hill for the last time. That must feel good for her, knowing she doesn't have to negotiate this hill anymore.
And we see Rishi Graywall struggling up this hill, overend right behind, chasing hard.
And in the women's race, right behind the fellow in the yellow jersey, there is Susan DiBiase right there in second place, a minute 15 behind that woman, Lisa Muick, going through the plain for the last time. And there is Cindy Devine in third place. So there's still a good women's race going here for second and third. But Lisa Muick will win the women's race. A great, satisfying result for Lisa Muick.
Number 30, Lisa Muick.
Meanwhile, there's Ned Overend passing Rishi Graywall. It has finally happened. Overend has caught Graywall.
Not only has he caught him, he's jumping out of the saddle up this climb, trying to crack Graywall. He knows he's caught him, he's passed him, he's going to try and get away from him.
Now we're down to 2 laps remaining, and Ned Overend has taken charge of this race with Rishi Graywall just desperately hanging on. But Ned, the machine that he is opening it up right now.
He said he's a strong climber on these hills. He knows this is where he has to open up his gap. He wants to win this event, his first one in Canada.
And meanwhile, in third and fourth, there is Bruce Spicer, and that is Tinker Juarez right there for third and fourth. But Ned Overend is in control right now, and he knows it. Right now, Rishi Graywall, who has really had some trouble here in the latter stages of this race, is 40 seconds behind. Spicer and Tinker Juarez are 55 seconds behind Graywall, so they still have hopes of catching Graywall for second spot. But there comes Ned Overend on his last lap. Nobody in behind him. He's all alone out there right now as Graywall begins his last lap, a full 58 seconds behind. Meanwhile, Tinker Juarez has moved into third ahead of Bruce Spicer. He is a minute 35 behind the leader.
And there's Ned Overend entering the downhill section of the forest. There's nobody but lap riders near him. At this point, he just does not want to fall.
And there's Rishi Graywall. He has literally cracked. Look at the discouraged look on his face. He's just trying to hold on to second place right now as Tinker Juarez and Bruce Spicer are trying to catch him. There's Spicer right there with Juarez tucked in right behind him. And now Spicer is passing Rishi Graywall right there. So Spicer moves into second. Graywall is now third and fading, and Tinker Juarez remains in fourth spot. But there is Ned Overend. There's nobody near him except lap riders as he goes down this steep hill for the last time. And a little bit of trouble there as he has to go around that rider who almost got in his way. That could have been a disaster, but it wasn't. And there is Graywall in fourth spot. Ned Overend just finishing up the final lap here around this circuit, and barring a total disaster, he'll win this one.
Here we come. Ready for Specialized. Here's your winner, ladies and gentlemen. Big round of applause. Ned Overend. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. Big warm round of applause.
And so what a satisfying win for Ned Overend, who came from behind to win it, overtaking Rishi Graywall. Bruce Spicer moves into second. Tinker Juarez is third. Graywall fades and finishes fourth.
Well, they went out faster than I could, and I was hurting for the first 4 laps. My back was hurting on the climb and stuff, and finally I loosened up, and towards the 2/3 through the race I picked up the pace and managed to catch the leaders, but going out that fast hurt them.
And so Ned Overend of Durango, Colorado shows us why he is #1 in the world as he wins the men's Pro-Am circuit race here at the Canadian Tire Mountain Bike Championships. Bruce Spicer is second, and Tinker Juarez finishes third. And for the women, it was Julia Ingersoll in fourth. Cindy Devine of BC moves up into third spot. Susan DiBiase in second. And Lisa Muick is the winner this afternoon.
The first lap, I guess I got a little anxious seeing the single track, tried to pass in a real bad spot. And I gave the spectators something to watch crashing up there, but I got back on and just kept riding and felt better about my fourth lap, and just kept maintaining my lead and maybe put a little more time on, and had a great end for my mountain bike season. I'm real happy to get a good win under my belt.
And so Lisa Muick is the winner here this afternoon of the women's Pro-Am circuit race at the Canadian Tire Mountain Bike Championships. Susan DiBiase is second, and Cindy Devine finishes third.
Super job. Well.
And so that's it for the Canadian Tire Mountain Bike Championships from the Glen Eden Ski Resort at the Kelso Conservation Area in Milton, Ontario. And so for Gord Singleton, this is Jerry Dobson saying so long for now.
Coming up next on Wide World of Sports, race 4 of the Players Limited GM Motorsports.